Hello everyone, welcome back to Overcharged Games. Today, I'm going to talk about I made a tier list a couple of weeks ago. I'll kind of let you see how I think the game is balanced right now, like where the survivors are in the game. And I've decided to make a video talk about specifically how I would rebalance the game. I'm going to be going through survivors from cheapest to most expensive, basically, and then the killers. And yeah, so I'm just gonna be talking about like what I think needs to be balanced, or what bounce changes would be good, and what would to make the survivors and killers on par. And what I mean is just that to be balanced, survivors have to have a way to outplay the killer, have a way to escape the killer if you outplay them, but the killer can still counter it or something, and it's not too broken. The killers, to be balanced, they just need to. It's kind of the same thing. They need to have a way to be countered, and it isn't just completely overpowered. So let's start off. First of all, Shedletsky. If you remember my materials, I put him at the bottom of S tier, and the reason I put him there isn't real. I'm gonna make something clear. I don't. Most of the survivors I don't think are overpowered. There are two exceptions, but most of them are are either pretty well balanced or a little bit underpowered, in my opinion, especially with the new killers. So Chiletski, in my opinion, doesn't need any balance changes. He is perfect as he is. He's a consistent sentinel, and if he misses the slash, he does get punished well for it. But if he's able to escape, then he heals. So I just don't think there's any reason to. If he is going to get balance change, you might as well like nerf his chicken or something some way, but I don't really think he needs a balance change. Then it's Elliot, who I put slightly below Streletsky and Noob at the bottom of A tier, because I think he is really good as a support. He's probably like the best support in the game because healing in any manner is really powerful. But I still didn't think he just doesn't have a lot of sustainability. Rush Hour, in my opinion, is not that great of an ability, especially when you consider that there's these rush lop killers like Nole and Guess Six, which can just ignore it and just catch up anyways because they're just so fast. Uh, so what I'm gonna do with Elliot is I'm gonna say basically buff his survivability, but slightly nerf his pizza throw, which is this also may not do anything. Honestly, I feel like Elliot's pretty balanced as is. If you have a good team, then you can survive for a good amount of time. And if the killer leaves you alone, you will make it a nightmare for them because it gives so much healing. But I feel like I would, if I had to make a balance change, I would definitely increase his survivability, but nerf his support because I feel like right now he kind of just dies if the killer targets him. And there's not much you can do. Rush Hour, it takes too long to recharge, and it doesn't give you enough distance to make up for that. So this is just what I would do to balance him. Next person we're talking about is Noob. And honestly, I don't think he needs any balance changes. I put him basically right next to Shed, top of A tier. And honestly, Noob is like probably the most balanced survivor in the game. If you're good at timing, then you can escape fairly easily, but also like it's not impossible for the killer to catch up to you at all. And like Bloxy Cola is his main thing, but then there's also Slate Skin to keep him alive for a couple more seconds, and also Ghost Burger for very niche situations, but it's not useless. So I think he's just overall really, really well balanced. Bilderman, if you remember at my tier list, I put him fairly low, slightly. Well, he's at the top of C tier, so yeah, he's in my opinion he needs a pretty big, not really big buff, but a pretty decent buff because as it is, he just doesn't have a lot of survivability. He just like die. His sentry is his only way of surviving, and if he doesn't have that, he's dead. It's kind of like Elliot's problem. So what I would do is reduce the time to construct sentries and dispensers by 2, which would make it 4 seconds. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 to construct the building, which I think will make it better so that like if you're in a pinch, you can sometimes get away with building a sentry if the killer isn't paying attention. Although it still won't be that helpful. And dispensers now heal 50% faster. Like honestly, this might not be enough of a buff, but I still think it's decent. Like if maybe it would be better if you could like increase the range of the sentries and other stuff, or even make dispenser heal 2 HP per second. Because the dispenser is not that great. Just 1 HP per second is not going to cut it when there's people like Elliot or Veronica's healing or Shed's healing that just gives so much more. Like 1 second health per second means that you can basically it basically takes 2 minutes to heal to full HP, which it would be generally much better to be doing generators to make it so that the round ends faster. But it's not useless, and I think I just think that Ascension needs a buff, and just overall he needs a buff. Maybe this may not be enough, but it's just what I put on here. 0, 0, 7, and 7. If you remember my tier list, I put him at the bottom for good reason. He's just kind of useless. Like, as a survivalist, he isn't terrible. If you get to LMS, you will destroy, like, more than half of the killer cast. Basically, anybody who doesn't have insane movement, like Noi or Nosferatu, and Guessing 6 can also do something bad, but, like, basically most of the killers will lose to you in LMS. Besides that, he sucks. First of all, killers will know this, so they will target you right out the gate, and you don't have anything if they do that, because Killjoy takes flipping like what 5.5 6 seconds somewhere around there to charge up, which is insane. No, I think it's like 5.5. I think it's 5.5, but like that's too long to use in a chase. And so the only other ability you have is Clone, which is useless for everything but body blocking, which means that you're basically the killer will just wait 10 seconds to kill you. It's not that great. So the buffs I decided to give him were pretty significant. Add another ability or another version of Killjoy, like maybe ability to switch from the Killjoy that gives him speed 1 and resistance 1 after like a 1.5 to 2 second windup for around 8 seconds. This will be a lot more effective in a chase. It's kind of like a Noob's Bloxy but slightly worse because I think it takes slightly longer to charge up, maybe. And it lasts for a little bit less time, but it's still like he needs something in a chase other than Clone. And this idea I got from somebody I just randomly saw it. Maybe add ability to switch who is invisible when using clone ability. Basically, you know how you go invisible when you clone and the clone stays visible? Add an ability to switch that so you can maybe trick killers into going after your clone. And next, lower one up for Killjoy at 0.5 seconds, which would make it 5 seconds. Not that big of a change, but something. Clones last for around 12 to 15 seconds instead, because just to make body blocking a little bit more effective. These are what my buffs would be to make 7/7 more balanced. Okay, the next survivor is Two Time. So Two Time, as you may have heard, is very broken. Like honestly, I put Dusika at the top tier list, but honestly, like Two Time can kind of fill that spot as well. He is very, very broken. Like it's kind of interchangeable between two. Like it is definitely not impossible to kill Two Time. Like if they mess up their stab, then they're basically dead. But like it has an almost instant wind up, and overall like if you get stabbed, you have to target them, or else he'll stab you again and get full ablation. Which the respawn isn't that terrible, but still like you don't want that to happen. So and plus he is just such a guy at LMS. He's kind of like the better version of 7 and 7 because he teleports to his ritual and also gets 110 base HP, which is insane. Like that's almost as much HP as Guest. and like the max for chance. So like, here's what my balance changes would be. And just so you know, most of these ideas came from Craft. I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. I got a lot of these ideas from watching his videos. Then a front stab gives 30% ablation, and back stabs give 40%. This he was just one of the ideas in this video was to nerf ablation. Basically, what this does is it makes it so that you either a need 4 front stabs to get ablation, which would take a while, which is good because you don't want to get them to get ablation immediately, or you can get 1 backstab and 2 other stabs. Doesn't matter. So like I think 3 is fine. So it's just like you can get stabbed once and you can be fine. But if you're stabbed again, you have to go after them. Then reduced range of stabs and also don't have the hitbox go behind them because there's no point of having the hitbox be that big and also go behind them because it means that like sometimes the hitboxes just bless you with random backstab that makes it literally 0 sense. So I think this is good. Maybe you don't have to reduce the range of stabs, but at least don't have the hitbox go behind him. Make it go in front of him like it's supposed to. Then to respawn the start of elements, you have to have full ablation, which like instead of just sitting in a corner the entire game, like you can do right now, you'll have to actually stab the killer to be good at LMS. Otherwise you just don't. Otherwise you'll be just stuck at 80 HP and not able to revive. I think these balance changes will make 2 time more balanced, and like, yeah, I think they're good. Guess 1337. Oh wait, I didn't mean to roll it yet, but like basically, guess I put just barely above 7-7 because he is also just inconsistent and not great. He is so like just bad. Like when you have people like Shadletsky who can stun the killer without needing a parry and can heal themselves, why would you play someone who is literally just a punching bag? Basically, that's why he is. That's what Guest is, a punching bag. Yes, it's 50 more HP. Like you can maybe sometimes take an additional M1 that does not matter. So he just sucks. So I have a lot of boundaries to give him, and also a lot of these came from Craft as well. You don't. So the first one is you don't need to block up to punch, which is like the parry feature is fun. Like the fact that you need to get a block is fun, but it's just way too hard to get a block for it to be fair. Like the killer can just not hit you, and yeah, and also I made it so that the non-parry punch will have a 2.5 second stun instead of 2 seconds because as it is, 2 seconds is just awful. Like it basically does nothing. If you hit against a block and they don't immediately punch, you'll know that you can just run after them and they will not be able to do anything. So yeah, and the cooldown would be 50 seconds. I think that's fair because it's a longer cooldown than like Shed or any of the Sentinels. But at least you have the punch in case you can't block. And also, blocking instead removes the cooldown of punch, which is why it has to be such a long cooldown, and also allows for a parry, which would do 4 seconds of stun instead of 3.5. Because, like, as is parry, a parry stun is the same as 2 times the backstab, which is absolutely absurd. Like, a backstab is not hard to get as it stands, while parry is close to impossible against a good killer. And also, parry heals for 20 HP, maybe more like 10. But like, I feel like it needs to have something good. So I think 20 would be nice. So yeah, these are the balance changes. He needs a really big balance change, and that's it. Taff, I don't. I put him like kind of basically dead middle of the tier list. Do think he needs a little bit of a buff to be on par with the other ones that I think are balanced. So I think what you should do. Currently, subspace lifetime is 50 seconds, barely more than the cooldown. So I think it should be 80 seconds. So you could theoretically have 3 at once, although that's not going to last long. But like, a lot of times you'll find that his subspaces just die out at the worst times because it has such a short lifetime. And yeah, just it just like needs to be longer for it to be more effective. Then increase max tripwire count from 3 to 4. Not very big changes, but they'll do something to help Tef. Dusakar, if you remember in my tier list, I put him at the top of the tier list because he is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best survivors to pick right now. Because he is by far, in my opinion, the best support. Maybe besides only really challenged by Elliot, but even then, he can keep a survivor alive for so long. And also, his plasma beam is really great for survivability because 3 seconds of slowness is a lot better than most people would think. If the killer is, if you time it right, the killer will have lost stamina, and you'll just be wasting that stamina because they have to run after you. Now, even if they don't have lost stamina, you're just gonna use it to recharge. You're still slowing them down, and they have to run to catch back up to you. So yeah, he's really good right now. So he needs some definite nerfs, but I don't think he really needs nerf. What I need is him to like his playstyle to really change. So what I would do is make it so that the spawn protection lasts 6 seconds instead of 3.5. Like 3.5 seconds is very short. So although it will save it if you time it perfectly, I feel like he would be much better for support if it doesn't only last 3.5 seconds. And it would also mean the killer may have to go after you to not keep the server alive for so long. And then Plasma Beam, instead of 3 seconds of slowness, it afflicts them with 2 seconds of slowness. And the cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds to 26. But so this will just make it a little bit less effective, which needs to happen. Honestly, these don't seem like a lot, but they will. I feel like they will do a lot to balance Istakar. Next, we have Veronica. Veronica is kind of a mess right now. I can't really. It's really hard to tell where she would actually be in my tier list. I put her at the bottom of B tier, but you could probably convince me to put her in like A tier. She's just kind of been good, but not really. It's just like her kit is a mess, and I rarely, if ever, see Veronica's playing now because she is really hard to use, and the payoff is not as good as someone like Two Time or Shiletsky or Dusakar. And like even Guest, I see a lot of people playing Guest, but that's just because Guest's playstyle is more fun. You get to you're a sentinel, you get to attack the killer. Veronica, you're just sitting in a corner the whole time, doing gens. So like I feel like she needs a little bit of a buff. So honestly, like you can, I feel like you have to do this. Okay, and revert back to 1.5 seconds increased stamina usage. Like you can keep the trick stuff where it only gives 4 per, but like the fact that it's 1.35x stamina usage makes it so that Skate is really bad. Like no, not really bad, but like pretty bad at escaping. They've basically made it so that you can't use it to really escape, especially against killers like Gassy Six, Noli, or um Nosferatu, because they catch up so easily, and even normal killers like Slasher can honestly sometimes just outrun you because he is fast enough that the fact that you're using 0.35 times more stamina, 0.35% more stamina is just does not make up for the fact that he is so much faster than you. But and then I would also kind of change around the broadcast so that the speed boost from phase lasts 2 seconds because I think they kind of gutted phase, so it needs something in return. Bumper gives 20% charge, so more of a reason to use it. Then mobile reduces stamina usage to 1.2. Also, you may not need to change the broadcast, but at least maybe so that skate is not terrible. That's what my bust would be for Veronica. I accidentally kept that. Okay, but this is Chance, obviously. The final survivor we're going to be putting, I put him really low C tier, because he is just inconsistent. Not in the because he's luck based, but that certainly doesn't help. But because he has one stun and that's it. I think he just needs a little bit more consistency. So what I'll do is failing coin flip will increase the odds of heads by 7.5% instead of 2.5%, which may seem like a lot, but like he really needs it. He needs to be able to get heads more consistently because it makes it so that there's less of a chance of there being these games where you just land on tails like 10 times in a row. They're very rare, but they do happen. They are extremely annoying. Then, the more notable changes lower the end lag of one shot and the cooldown by 7 seconds. Because as it stands, if you don't stun the killer with one shot, then you are leaving yourself exposed so much. The end lag is so long, especially if you explode. I think that increases the end lag. So I think that needs to be decreased and also increase the cooldown by 7 seconds. I think that makes it a 38-second cooldown, which I think it needs because it needs to be used more consistently. Then also for reroll, I've decided to make it so that additional charges increase the HP from reroll by 10%, but the base maximum HP is decreased from 160 to 120 to 110. This actually doesn't do so. Like what it does is it makes it so that there's more of a reason to reroll. The maximum HP you can get for this is actually exactly the same as it is before because it's just how it works. The maximum is 132, both with before this and after, but it makes it so that rerolling is more rewarding, even if it's probably not going to do much. This is probably not going to do much, but I think it's still worth it to do it. He may honestly need more buffs, but I'm not exactly sure what to do. So this is going to be my buffs. Slasher is quite a terrible killer right now. He isn't the worst in my opinion. That goes to John Doe because he just kind of sucks completely. Slasher at least can catch up to survivors, and well, that's the problem. It's hard for that, but if he does catch up to survivors, he can kill them. It's gonna be really easy once he does that. But he just needs a lot of buffs to be able to catch up to survivors because he's melee only. I have two ideas for buff, which is either A, increase like all of his movement speed like stuff by 0.5, which would make a pretty big difference and would give him the very, very slight edge to catch up to survivors, in my opinion. Like, you may also need more, but my other idea is to don't increase the sprint speed, keep the walk speed and raging pace change, but increase the damage of behead to 30 because 20 is just not enough, and decrease wind up for gashing wounds so that you can surprise survivors who aren't expecting you. He also is probably maybe needs more than this, but I feel like this is good. I feel like this is good enough to make him on par with everyone else. Cool Kid. Oh wait, I didn't want to. Okay, so Cool Kid, I put him like middle tier. I put him in the bottom of A tier. He is like not as terrible as Slasher John Doe. He can still win rounds, but it is so much more difficult than every other killer besides Slasher and John Doe because like he's just punished so heavily for doing just about anything. His the end lag on corrupt nature is not effective enough to be worth it, and because it's so slow and doesn't do that much. And then walk speed override. If you miss it, you basically just reset the chase. Like the chase is over. You have to start again. So here's what my buffs would be to Cool Kid. Increase the range of his punch to 6.5 or 7. Like he needs the range to be increased because as is, it is so like it is so hard for him to hit survivors. Like you will find yourself underestimating the range of his punch so often because, or I mean, overestimating because it is just so short. Like the shortest other one I think is like 7.25 with guessing 6 or 7 with his eviscerate. I think. So I think like probably 6.5 is good, but maybe 7. Corrupt Nature projectile moves faster because it is super slow and deals 20 damage instead. So it's a little bit more worth it to use Corrupt Nature. Then Walk Speed Override, final buff is going to deal a total of 50 damage with Birding. So that it does a little bit more damage. And does it help the fact that it's still going to be punished if you miss, but at least it's something. And that's gonna be my buffs. He doesn't need that much of a buff because I'm gonna be nerfing a bunch of the other killers, but I do think he does need something. John Doe, the worst killer in the game by far. He is just so terrible. His playstyle just doesn't work. So he needs a pretty big buff. First of all, a lot of these ideas came from Craft again. M1 in range increased to 8. I think he needs his M1 range to be increased because his M1 is his main way to deal damage, so I think that needs to be increased. Next, John Doe can destroy his own spikes. This is probably not necessary, but but that was something that he suggested, which I think is cool, so that you don't. So if you're playing John Doe and you're a new player, it's a little bit less punishing if you don't know how to use Corrupt Nature. Then Unstoppable nerf either completely reverted or mostly reverted, like instead of like because as it is, Unstoppable is just next to a useless ability. Like you have to waste an ability to have it work, and yes, you can use Air 404, but you have to be good at predicting. And even then, the payoff is not good enough to be worth it. Like, why would you make it so that the stun is slightly worse if you could instead just dodge it and hit the player back and punish him? Then place 4 digital footprints, and I think that's good. He may also need more, but I think this is good to buff him enough. Noli, one of, if not, one not if not one of the most broken killers in the game. Nosferatu is definitely more broken, but he is very powerful. Like the only way to stop him is looping, and even then, Void Star does a lot to stop that. So yeah, he needs a massive buff, mainly to Void Rush. So here's what I'm gonna do. Decrease Void Rush move speed a little bit and reduce the total time by around like 3 to 5 seconds. Can't remember what the total rush time. I don't know what the total rush time is right now, but like it's way too long. It is so much better than Walk Speed Override that it needs to be nerfed. Also, make it so that it can't be canceled, or either that or make it the end lag for canceling it longer. Because as it is, it takes 0 commitment to use Void Rush, and that is just not good. Because it means that it just makes it so much better than every other dash ability in the game, where you have to, once you use the ability, you have to dash, even if the server gets out of the way. And then Void Star deals 10 damage instead of 15, and that has a 15-second cooldown, just so that it's a lot, just so that it's not as good, not as spammable, and it's more of a support item. And I think that's good for Noli, because as it is, he does kind of get countered by looping, but then there needs to be a change. Next is 1x, which I put at the top of A tier. He kind of like borders on the line of almost being broken, but really not. He's like one of the most balanced killers in the game, in my opinion. So the only thing I would really say is reduce the cooldown of Take Limit by like 2 seconds and Unstable Eye cooldown by 5. Like just reduce the cooldowns so that he can use his abilities more often, because as it is, without his abilities, he's more or less useless, but the abilities are effective enough that it kind of counteracts that, so just make them able to be used more often. And next killer, Gas 66, we're almost done. So I put Gas 66 slightly below Noli in S tier, because he is a really good killer, but he is not as good as Noli. What I think he needs is a bunch of buffs and nerfs just combined, so that's what I gave him. First of all, Carving Slash has a length of 7.5 instead of 7.25, but deals 16 damage. So in total, his 2 M1s deal 26, which, yeah, it's not. It makes him the least damage, have the least damaging M1 by far in the game. But I do think it needs to be nerfed a little bit, so that, because he needs more of a nerf than the buff, but I'm not going to do it without compromise, so he gets 7.5 range. Then Demonic Pursuit deals 30 minimum damage instead of 24 and a maximum of 45, but the windup is increased by 0.15 seconds. Then Infernal Cry cooldown is decreased to 18, but during Blood Hunt it gives 2 seconds of speed and 6 seconds of strength, because part of Infernal Cry is that and Blood Hunt is super broken. So I think when you're not in Blood Hunt, it isn't nearly as broken. So I think it needs to get a buff overall, but during Blood Hunt, it is not nearly as broken. Last buff I would give him is increase the helpless gain from a stun to 3 seconds and slowness to 4 during Blood Hunt. So currently, this isn't Blood Hunt. Stunning is literally completely useless because the helpless and slowness is just not going to do anything. You're just giving them time to hit you. So make it so that it's a little bit more effective to stun during Blood Hunt, but it's still just not very effective. And also, when killing a survivor, Blood Hunt is increased by 18 seconds instead of 15. That doesn't do honestly that much, but it's gonna do something. Just to compromise for the increase of that stuff. So I think this will overall make him more balanced. Then Nosferatu, undoubtedly the most broken killer in the game right now. Okay, and I'm just gonna get right to it. The stuff I would give him is, first of all, walk speed and run speed decreased by 0.25. So I think it's like almost the same speed as 1x. Because he needs to get nerfed. If he's going to have the movement like Ascension, then his walk speed and run speed is going to be nerfed. Blast rate range decreased to 7.5. As it is, I think it's either 7.75 or 8. And that's not good. He needs to have it decrease because that makes it pretty good M1. Like, range is very beneficial. So just make it down to like the average M1 range. Next, blood hook range decrease because as it is so long, it is like you can't outrun it really. So just it doesn't need to be decreased that much because that's not the main issue with it. It's just that I think that's it. I think that I don't like how long it is. Honestly, that can be ignored, but the slowness and helpless gain after doing it will be increased, like 0.5 seconds increase because just for the sake of it, just to put Saul in the lead, because he needs to be relentlessly nerfed. No, then Nosferatu only travels for 1 second during Cataclysm instead of 1.25, and the cooldown is increased to 30. Plus, the effects from the blood pulse only last for 3.5 seconds. This overall just made Cataclysm a little bit more balanced. It's still a mix of digital footprint and like every ability in the game, and just like will probably still be pretty powerful, but it isn't as broken. And stepping in the blood puddles is not going to be nearly as punchy as before, but it's still really bad. Next and final one is Ascension cooldown increase to 50 seconds, and it lasts for 8 seconds instead of 10. Also, Sprinting during it does increase your move speed, but it actually uses stamina, so that you can't just fly across the map without using any stamina. And that's all my buffs. You can say in the comments if you disagree with them, but this is what I think would make the game more balanced. I haven't tried this out in practice, obviously, so I don't know if it's completely broken, or whatever. But I do think this will make everyone more balanced. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you made this far, please like and subscribe.